Statistics show that one in every four Nigerians suffers from one mental health challenge or the other, and that is about 50 million persons in total, an estimate. Research also shows that an employee's mental health is a fundamental aspect of every workplace. How an employee feels affects the day-to-day activity and the overall productivity of a workplace, and this cuts across many sectors. How healthy are you mentally? Hello and welcome to Youth Arena on Advent Cable Network Nigeria ACNNTV. Youth Arena is a program specially created to highlight issues affecting youth, ranging from economic, social, political, and of course, religious. Today we'll be focusing on a social issue, a health challenge, but ignored or just left out by many, and that is mental health. I am your host today, Abosede Taiwo, and I'll be having two guests today. We'll be getting an input from one guest outside the set, but I have one guest with me here. So we'll be getting an input from Dr. Olusegun Shoyombo, who is a consultant psychiatrist with the National Hospital Abuja here in Nigeria. And with me today on set is Barrister Chims Ezeagu. You're welcome to the show today, sir.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here. So like I said, today we'll be focusing on mental health and we'll be getting to know the factors that affect or contribute to mental health challenges, how you can help yourself, and just what you can do to protect your mental health. So we're going straight into the discussion for the day, sir. So can we get to know what exactly is mental health?
But before we go into what mental health is exactly, I want to say that mental health is everybody's business. It is everybody's business and it is underrated. In Nigeria, we underrate the issue of mental health. So I'll go straight to the definition. World Health Organization in 2014 defined mental health as a state of well-being in which an individual, one, realizes his or her own abilities. That is a situation where an individual can realize his or her own abilities, that is mental health. A state where an individual can cope with the normal stresses of life. So the moment you can no longer cope with the normal stresses of life, there is a little element of mental illness. And just to say that mental illness is as a result of, it comes from mental health. There is mental illness. So that is when your mental health starts deteriorating, it goes into mental illness. And then it's also a situation, a state where an individual is able to work productively and fruitfully. So the moment you can no longer work productively and fruitfully as an individual, according to World Health Organization, mental illness has gradually set in and your mental health is down. So basically, according to World Health Organization in 2014, that's what they see as mental health.
Okay, from your definition, I'm guessing that there are many things that contribute to
Exactly.
mental health. So what are some of these factors that actually contribute to mental health challenges?
I will categorize them I'll put them in three categories. One, it could be psychological, it could be biological, and it could be environmental. Now, I'll take them one by one. Biological, you see hereditary. It could be hereditary, where a family has issue of a law. There is what we call, there's a particular case, popular case of what we call Hunkun. It's a family that has recurrent attack of insanity. So mental illness can be hereditary. That is from one person. So if a family has a history of someone that has suffered mental illness, there is every possibility that in every generation there will be one person in that family that will have a recurrent attack of mental illness. Now, secondly, it could also be infectious. There are certain health situations, diseases, or infections that can lead to mental illness. There is one particular one that's called autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder. It's associated with staphylococcus bacteria. So when you're affected with this bacteria, it causes it's an infection and it goes straight to cause mental illness. There could be brain defects or injury. Maybe someone had an accident and there was a brain injury. Most times, or 60% of the times, statistically that it leads to mental illness, and this could lead to a disorder in the mental health. And lastly, on biological factors, you could see substance abuse. When you see all these people that take Indian hemp and other substances, By the time he gets to it, you see the person misbehaving. That is why you see a person on the street. The eyes are red, the person is staggering, the person sees a gutter, the mental health as a result of that substance the person has consumed has affected the mental brain and mental illness has set in. Then when you go to the psychological factors, inclusive neglect. Now, a person comes to a point where the person is neglected. If care is not taken, the person's mental health is affected. The person is likely to mental illness. Now, you see the person is always withdrawn, the person is always alone because nobody has shown the person care, nobody has shown affection, nobody has tried to come close to that person. So, you see psychological trauma, maybe someone is emotionally, physically, or sexually abused. When you see people in these three categories, most times their mental health is affected because there is this thing that it triggers in them that they see every person as a predator. So any small thing, they are withdrawn. So this person may have from me at the point. So before you know it, the mental health is affected. Then the loss of a parent, a child or a young person who loses a father or mother or both parents. There is this case we came across a child that lost the father and mother in an accident. They were going to church and a car came and crushed the father and mother. So that child, even growing up, it was a problem. The moment the child sees a car, the child is withdrawn and all that. So the mental health is actually affected, and these things were not discovered early enough. It led into mental illness, and the mental health of that child is affected. Then down to the environmental factors. I said there are three factors. I categorize them into psychological, biological, and environmental. So the third one is environmental: death or divorce, death of a loved one, death of a family member, death of a partner. I know a lady some years back, I think about 2000 or about 2020, she lost her fiancé, they were planning marriage, and then Arteria won her in Abuja here, and the man was driving and the car hit him, and that was it. So once you tell that girl about relationship, when she came for therapy, when we were talking, and she told me outrightly, said she doesn't want anything in relationship, that once she goes into a relationship, the first thing that comes into her mind is the person will die. So you see that that lady's mental ill health had already been affected. Mental health rather had already been affected, and she's mentally ill. So let me also say that mental illness, linking it to a definition, is not just when you say a madman walking on the streets. That is what we see as somebody who is mentally ill. That is not really it. It has a number of issues. Like these things I've listed now, these things are mental ill health, and until it takes that gradual process till it leads to that point where the person goes out of control completely. And then you can see a dysfunctional family, that's a part of the environmental factors. A person who is in a family that is dysfunctional and nothing is working, there is a lot of abuse, emotional and everything, verbal abuse. Someone may not pass through emotional abuse, but they see verbal abuse, so they increase. This child, they are very stupid, you will not amount to anything. And that child goes, I give you a practical example. I walked into a family and we were discussing, and then the mother, so I was asking the children, what's the position, so the period, this one was saying, this one said this. So this one said she came fifth. The mother said, this one cannot come first now. And the daughter, the girl went into the room and was crying. I told the mother, can I go to the room? She said, fine. I walked into the room. So the lady said, my mother does not see anything good in me, and I feel I am not good enough. So I had to take the extra steps of telling the mother, I would like to go meet with this girl one-on-one. Let her see me in the office. Let's talk. Let's interact. So you see that the girl grew up with the mentality that the mother said, your siblings are better than you. And that has, whether you like it or not, verbally, it is a verbal abuse. And it has moved from verbal abuse to emotional abuse. And the girl is going down mentally, her mental health is affected, is destabilized. And the parents cannot even figure it out. So there are a lot of factors, environmental factors, low self-esteem and loneliness. Where a child is always abandoned, the parents are always going to look for money, and they come in at night, the girl is sleeping, the child comes back from school, nobody to attend. So there are a number of environmental factors, loneliness, anger, and then changing a job or a school can also affect your mental health. I don't pay attention to those things. You get this job today, another day you are sacked, you get another one, another day you are sacked, you get another one. Changing jobs like that can affect, because you are used to an environment, the next thing you move to another environment, you try to learn the things, and then you're already trying to adjust, to adapt to the environment you are coming from, and you're going into another one. So you start the process all over again. If you are not careful, it affects your mental health. Not everybody has the capacity to swing in that manner and come out of it. So just like changing school for a child, this time the child is in great kids, next time the child is in this one, next year the child in brilliant kids, next year is in excellent kids. The child moves from there to there, and as the child changes, swaps school like that, swaps into new challenges, and some of them may be higher than the child, and if you are not careful, it will be very difficult to manage the mental health of that child. So these are some of the factors that can cause mental health, that can lead to the retardation of one's mental health and sway into mental illness. We've talked about the psychological factors, we've talked about the biological factors, and we talked about the physical factors, the environmental factors, and social factors.
Thank you so much, sir. Viewers, remember you can join in the conversation by following up with the topic on our various social media handles as displayed on your screen. You can also send in your comments, your questions via the phone line that will also be shown on your screen. So, sir, going on with the discussion, I'm looking at training in Africa and the development of social skills. What is the relationship between social skills and mental health? Because, like you mentioned, many people feel like that's a tough way to bring up your child. You should go to families and the children are brought up with insults. And you see people manage, if I can put it that way, you see many people feeling like they're okay. So, what is the relationship between mental health and development of social skills? Looking at it from the family background.
Okay, the truth is, persons with mental illness suffer from deficit of social skills. Persons with mental illness suffer from deficit in social skills. Now, why? They suffer from inability to express themselves freely, inability to relate with people, and inability to do things because this person feels I can't do it. I don't have a mind of my own. I can't do it. So you see that the person is suffering of deficiency in expression and actualization of social skills. And then for some, they have learned these skills, but because they have told them you can't do it, because of this mental illness, they can't effectively practice and put into action that which you have learned. So there is a very close relationship, and a person with mental illness cannot effectively carry out any social skill because there is a limitation. Now, what mental illness does is that it comes to bring a lacuna. Now you begin to see yourself less of yourself. You begin to think less of yourself. Now someone that's into sewing tells himself, I can't do this thing. Let's take someone into fashion. You bring a design, person says I can't do it. I feel I can't do it. There are other better people there. Now before you know it, that's what the person does, God starts leaving the person, and the person cannot follow through with the current trend. So before you know it, the person feels, what am I even useful for? Depression sets in, anxiety sets in, and a lot of other things. So there is a very close relationship between mental health and social skills.
So is it safe to say modesty sometimes could be a sort of low self-esteem? Just like when people say, there are people better than, because you hear that a lot when a person expects to do something and you just look with someone that is more.
The truth is, what do you define as qualification? That is where the issue lies. Now, I believe in, and what we try to tell people when they come for therapy is, for every aspect, for every part of you, there is something good. Now, I'm wearing a jacket. Someone may make this jacket better than what it looks like now. But that does not mean that the one I'm putting on currently is not fine. So, yes, there may be people better than you, but the thing is, you strive to do better. But when mental health is affected, there is no desire, there is no passion to strive to do better. I beg, leave me alone to again, wait except the one who are doing it. But now, what a sound mental health does is that it helps you think better. It helps you think of ways to improve yourself. But someone that is affected mentally is already thinking of, I have no what. The person loses his what or her what. And the person feels I can't do it again. What am I useful for? And before you know it, the person starts going down. Effectiveness, output and input, nothing. It goes to zero.
Okay, so what are some of the signs and symptoms of mental health deterioration? Because sometimes it's difficult for people to pay attention to it. And then how can a person detect it early enough to be able to tackle it before it gets out of hand?
Some of the symptoms now, I will take it into the ones that goes inwardly and the ones we see outside. First, inwardly, once you begin to lose interest in what gives you joy, check yourself. The moment you begin to see that things that ordinarily gives you interest, things of interest before now. Okay, let's say you have passion in swimming, and then when they call you to swim, like, exactly. You that takes me to the second one. That's the physical. But then let me talk of the inward. Then two, anger is normal. Bitterness is normal. But when it starts affecting your everyday activity, it becomes abnormal. I don't know if you get that. Now, it is normal to be angry over something. It is normal to be dissatisfied. It is normal to feel if some way sad. But when the anger, the sadness, and the emotions begins to affect your daily productivity, you are gradually sliding into mental illness without knowing. Now, at that point, it now leads to the physical ones. There is regular mood swing. The person is happy this minute, the next minute the person is nagging, the next minute the person is bitter, the next minute the person is shouting. At any small thing, it leads to the second one, irritation. The person is easily irritated. The next small thing, I beg.
You see that a lot.
You see that a lot, and most times when I go to the street and then I see some of these people, and people want to just don't go this person's passing through. What I do is I try to make the person. Now these people, what they want to see is they want you to receive them. Sure. But so you see, the person is very irritated. I beg, okay, shift now. Just enter a taxi. Sorry, can you adjust? I beg, what is it, sir? The person is gradually sliding into a third level of depression. That way. Now the next one is the person is easily withdrawn. Such a person becomes withdrawn. The person does not want to associate with people, does not want to relate to people. You know why the person is avoiding? The person does not want to talk to you what he or she is passing through. So the person is dying inside. These are some of the physical ones. Then the next one is low productivity. The person loses interest in job. The person comes to work, and then maybe the person starts chatting. All the person is doing, what do I do to distract myself? The person loses interest in anything that gives the person happy. The person comes to work, and that affects the productivity level. No interest in all those. So once you begin to see these signs, you don't need to walk on the street and then without everybody to know that this person is something. This person is passing through mental illness. No, these are some of the little signs, and then you see some people, they sit back and they start talking to themselves.
Funny enough, many people feel like that's a sign of intelligence.
We do. It's not a sign of intelligence. Check it. Something is gradually going down.
Sure.
It is normal to stay and then meditate. Yeah. But when you see somebody, the person is talking, and the person is not even hearing you, and you say, the person is gradually moving down. It's gradually, and before you know it, it gets to the next level. And that next level, if not managed, the person is out of the street. Some can be reading book. It's another thing is ability to know when to say it's time. The brain has a way it works. Once the brain is overloaded, it starts to malfunction. When you know when it's time. I read a lot, but once it's time, I pack up my things and I move. I was supposed to write something yesterday. A colleague was telling me, sir, it's a documentary that says it's not ready. The person said, well, sir, you have spare. I said, I have spare time now, but my spare time is not for my brain to work. I need to relax the brain so that I can be productive. So, but most times, we try to overlabor the head. Thinking is the number of 20 hours you spend. There is what we call that thing. For those of us who do the economics, a lot of diminishing returns. Before you know it, it sets in. So these are some of the physical and the inward signs you see and symptoms you see that you know that you need to really check it.
Okay. But then if you're talking about, for instance, like I mentioned, the person speaking for themselves for the pricing. If in very, very local areas, I've heard people saying that like, the person is intelligent, able to speak to yourself, which is by the way. But then things like that, people see it as normal. They see it as normal for a person to speak to himself. They see it as normal for you to hustle, as they used to say, as we would say. So hustle for you to make sure you grind to get the money, all the. But how can you convince a person that overworking or seeing a person speak to himself, or seeing a person trying to do more than he or she is supposed to, and you feel like the person is just a workaholic, but the person loves you? How are you able to say, okay, stop at this moment, this is a sign of this or that?
Okay, I'll give you a practical example with a generator. A generator can work from, you can put up, fuel a generator and put it on. But you know there is a time the generator heats up and it goes off on its own.
Sure. Yes.
Now, if you are trying to grind to make ends meet, there is a day will come and then your brain will heat up and it will pack up. Now there is a current trend that people need to watch out for. I was with someone on Saturday and they said the man slept. I said, did they check his blood pressure? That was the first thing I asked. Did they check his blood pressure? Now, when you overwork yourself that way, what happens is you are giving your brain times 2 of what ordinarily should carry. And before you know it, it comes up. You know the system comes like it's down.
Yeah.
Before you know it, the signal sends and it knocks up. And then you see that person has stopped. So that is why no matter how much you try to grind, make sure there is also a time to take a break. I told somebody, a client came in one day, I said, it is my nap time. And I meant it. At least 10 minutes, I lock my office, recline my seat, and I bend. That 10 minutes nap, once I wake up, 10 minutes, I set my alarm 10 minutes, once I wake up, I feel refreshed and move. But you feel, because at that time, if you tell yourself the truth, you see that your productivity is minimal. Very minimal, you can't do effectively. Because the brain is overworked and it is struggling to be productive. But when you relax, so the truth is, every human should make out time to relax. Even computers sometimes, there is a way it works and then it begins to beep to tell you, come, it's time for me to rest.
Okay, I'm sure you tell us more on
Yeah.
that. So it's been a deep conversation. Also, I'm sure you're enjoying it, and it's not our usual, but this is a serious matter that we need to pay attention to. We'll still talk more on this, but we need to go on a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
On this show, we focus on the journey from girlhood to womanhood and everything in between.
You hear such comments like it's not ladylike because there is a way ladies should behave.
Please don't ask a man out. I beg you. We are so cultured that the day you do.
It is in that place of fellowship that you get to discover all these things.
You discover yourself.
Yes.
Biology-wise, women are able to progress faster into addiction than the men.
Don't crucify the woman for wanting financial security. Remember, every woman is worthy by design.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is Youth Arena on Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNNTV. Like I mentioned just before we went on the break, it's not the usual. We'll be having a very serious conversation on a very serious social issue, a health challenge, mental health. And Barrister Chims Intiago has been telling us a lot about the factors and things we must do. But like I said, we're going to know more. So let's go straight into it. So how can one create awareness for mental health, especially in a developing society like Nigeria? Because like we mentioned earlier, we said it's ignored in many societies. Many people wait till it becomes something else, and then many of us define mental health as saying a mentally unstable person moving around on the streets. How can we raise awareness on this in local communities, especially?
Before I answer that, let me also say, before we went on break, we talked about some of the symptoms. Let me also add headache, constant headache. When you're having constant headache, recurring, you have taken treated malaria, treated typhoid, check it. You're overworking yourself and your mental health is not. Dizziness, constant dizziness. Then there is this regular one. You see people online by 1 a.m. tell you something. Check it. Inability to sleep. Because an average human being should have at least a minimum of 8 hours.
Many consider agree that because I've heard people say 8 hours is too much. You should have
8 hours is too much, but then until you lie in the hospital for weeks,
then
you discover that 8 hours is not too much, at least minimum. So, if someone wants to have regular distorted sleep, check it. There is a patient I'm working on currently who said, you know my sleep pattern now. That was how somebody referred. They said, you know my normal sleep pattern. I can't sleep. My mind is always at work.
I've heard that.
My mind is always at work. And she came in and I just laughed. Said, your mind is always at work. Yes. I said, wow. Your mind is actually destroying you. So I lied on the bed. I said, it is a problem. You need to watch it. Because that regular cycle, before you know it, hits you down. Particularly in young people. That is why you see people die very young these days. Because at that age it starts, and before you know it, it hits them. Now, down to your question. What we are doing now is one of the ways. We need to talk about it. In churches, in Bible clubs, in social clubs, in press clubs, in secondary schools. In fact, I'm advocating now that it should be included in curriculum. From primary school down. Now, I discovered that CDC, Center for Disease Control, has it that at least 4.4 million children between the ages of 3 to 7 suffer of depression and anxiety. 4.4 million of children between the age of 3 to 7. See? So it is a problem. Now, that means that we should talk about it as early as possible. Parents, teach your children at home. Interact with them. Don't abuse them. Then we should have people that should volunteer to go to these rural places and talk to them about it. People in the rural don't even know what they're talking about. When you talk about mental health, they don't know what they're talking about. It's not someone who understands English that knows what mental health. We should be able to translate it in their own local languages and then take the message to them. We should be able to, churches should organize campaigns. Organizations, individuals should organize campaigns and take this thing to the locals, interpret it in their language, and make them understand. Tell them it is real. Tell them the signs, tell them the symptoms, also teach them the solution. So there should be regular awareness in churches in particular and in other religious houses. There should be regular awareness about it. And then also finally, parents should try to talk to their children, interact with your children. By doing this, you create awareness. A child goes to school, my mommy told me about this, and finally, government should ensure it is included in the curriculum.
So you talked about curriculum, but I'm thinking this is within the urban setting.
Yeah.
There are serious work. I've been to a community for a wedding, and even it existed in the state I was saying. There are no lights, you just have poles. I'm sure maybe someone for some reason puts it there, but they have no power supply, they have no food, they are completely away from the city. How do you reach? Because it's easy to say create awareness, it's easy to say go out for campaigns, but there are some communities that are totally cut off from everything. How do you reach them? Because you have to be specific about it, because I know some organizations make the effort to reach such communities, but at the same time, there are still communities that you can't reach, and it's difficult for you to convince them. That's another thing. Because how do you expect them that, okay, this is not normal, this is normal? How can that be balanced?
Actually, I will start from the government. It's unfortunate that the government has failed us. We actually have an organization that should help with this thing. There is National Orientation Agency, and this is part of their work.
Oh, funny enough, many people just go there for.
And people don't even know there's anything like National Orientation Agency. Their own is to be able to orientate people about happenings and developments and challenges. So they should actually take these news to the locals. But I thank God for civil society organizations. They are doing a whole lot, NGOs and all, who take it down. So but beyond that, I think people should be deliberate about taking it to the rurals. The place you went to saw poles. I've been to a place in this Abuja, there's no pole, in this FCT, there's no pole, yes, there's no pole, there's no light, there's no water, they still fetch for water from the river to drink. So such we went for an outreach and I was like, in this FCT? Yes. Some parts of Pape. So the government should be deliberate about the National Orientation Agency doing their work. And also, not just that, individuals, churches in particular, should take this message. That is why the churches there, they should take this message down to these rural areas. Go and educate these people. Tell them about it. Get people who are experienced in mental health, let them go in and then tell them. And they should go with counselors, because by the time you go there, you discover there are a lot of persons. In fact, the truth is, you said 1 out of 4. It has come down to 1 out of 3, if you check it very well. But the thing is, we don't tell ourselves the truth to deceive ourselves about it. A number of us are struggling with mental health issues, particularly in our present in Nigeria. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of issues.
Okay, but then if in a situation where the awareness has been created, counselors meet out, sometimes the problem is follow-up. So in a case where you can't have professional help consistently or being very constant with interactions with persons, how can mental health be managed? Because sometimes the person is not able to reach a psychiatrist, to reach a counselor like you, to reach many persons that can help us. What should the person do if you're in a space that every other person is not reachable and it is becoming a bad case?
First, I usually talk to someone. The person may not be a counselor, talk to someone. You know, the first point of healing starts with opening up. By the time you open up to someone from us, this is what I'm passing through. The person may not have an immediate solution, but by the time you, now in counseling, there is a technique we use. There was a one-on-one for trauma counseling. Yeah, there was something we were taught. They said sometimes just allow the person vent. The person just give the person 1 hour. So sometimes I just sit, the person is sitting and watching me. The person will talk here. You just stay like this. You are not interjecting, you are not saying anything, you just allow the person talk. So some come and they talk for as much as 2 hours. And I'm just watching. Yes. I've had as much as 3 hours. The lady talk, I just get. So by the time she finished talking, I said, how do you feel? She said, I feel relieved. I have not said anything. So that's one of the techniques. Just talk to someone. You see that when you have a burden and then you share with someone, the person may not have a proper solution, but you feel, a little kind of relief, something like that. So talk to someone. One big issue why a lot of people slide into depression that there's nobody to talk to. No release. There's nobody to share your life. You know, it's unfortunate. I don't know where I was within the past week, and I was telling someone, I said, how we grew up, things are no longer like that. When we interact, okay, it was a senior colleague, an SN, he said, your generation of lawyers, you don't relate with each other. Everybody is just facing their own business. But that is the sad reality. Everybody is striving to, let me do better than you, let me do better than you, and it's fast killing us. So, but first, when you can't access a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist, a doctor, rush to talk to someone. Just talk to someone first. Talk to someone. That's the first process of healing. And then for a person that can study, social media has made it easy. Yeah, try to read, and it has made it easy, it has also worsened.
Exactly.
And that is why the number of children, that is the 4.4 million children, the number of deaths leading to depression, because there's peer pressure. Society wants to, social media tells you this is how to do it, and you want to impress and you want to hit the target. Depression. You know, when you hear children of 6 talk these days, you are wondering, where are they getting it from?
Yeah.
You're wondering, who is educating them?
And the funny thing is that we clap our hands.
Of course. Parents give their
saying.
children phone as early as 2 months. You don't know what the children do. I know a boy of 5 years that can, as much as connect internet on your phone. If your data is off, the boy will put it off and then he would, yes. No, I said 4. The boy will put it on and download games on your phone. So a boy that can download games on your phone and play games, the boy can do anything. So social media has not helped, it has also helped in a way. I won't actually condemn it. So but try to Google, check out something, look at it, read, and then finally as Christians, pray. There is not God, there's nothing God. There's this popular slogan all over Nigeria now, what God cannot do. So you can pray, there's nothing God cannot do. But first step, talk to someone. Where you can't access a psychologist or any of the professionals, talk to someone.
Okay, now, there's a thing I've been talking to someone now in an African setting. You know, our upbringing mainly, or in most cases, is secrecy. You are being told not to say where you're going to, you're being told not to say what you're up to, you're being told not to share your plans. Like, keep it as quiet as possible. You protect yourself when you. So, in that case, now you have many people suffering from from many things, but upbringing now has taught them to keep it to themselves. How can you help?
Thank you for coming in that manner. Now, when I say talk to someone, I didn't say talk to anyone. It's not just anybody you talk to. Look for somebody you respect. Somebody you can confide. A lady died, sadly. And by the time she pulled up, it was late. Very late, it was at a critical stage. The only thing when I came across that situation was if only she was spoken. But you know, the challenge we have is the world will judge me. What will people say?
Sure.
What will church say?
Yeah.
I am this, I am that, my father is this, my mother is this, what will the society say? But the truth is, your life is worth more than what people will say. I tell you, your life is worth it's what's the worst that's going to pass. It may be a mistake you made, and it has led you to depression, and you're dying. Forget about that scandal. With time it will finish. I will say, if anyone be in Christ, all things are past away, behold, all things are become new. So forget about it. So talk to someone you can confide in. Let the person counsel you, let the person talk to you. The person may not be a professional, but holding your hands and the fact that you know that somebody is holding your hands in this challenge. Some may be challenges of life, issues of life, you are owing a number of persons and it's gradually affecting your mental health. Talk to someone. Knowing that, okay, I met a patient. Sorry, I'll just tell you a short story and I'll end it at that. I met a patient and then she says, you are the first counselor meeting that is not judging me. Now, what happened? We have counselors in churches, but some of these counselors need to do better. We should not assess these people from the point of judgment. If you judge the person will not want to open up to you. The person will run. Allow the person, make the person feel, come on, you are not the first, you are not the last. Let the person come out of it before you now find a way to tell the person, these are the areas you missed it. But once you start with condemnation, and the person tells you, if I thought they will condemn me, they will judge me. So the person said, the first person I'm meeting her. So I discovered that thing made the lady open up completely. Told me, okay, said these things I'm telling you, sir. My father does not know, my mother does not, I've not told anybody like that. But I feel like I leave them in your hands. So go to someone you can trust. And you hearing me, when people trust you with such stories, it's not a prayer point to go to the people and say,
exactly.
Let us pray for Rochus, he's passing through so and so. You know, some Christians can be very religious. Please pray. Or you meet someone and say, Sheikh, please pray for this brother, he's passing through a lot. The brother didn't tell you to go and tell people that he's passing through a lot. You only confide to him because he needed somebody to, you know, the heart can be so free. I just need to let you trust. So talk to someone you can trust. It's not everything that is meant to be kept in secret. That secret you are sweeping under the carpet one day will gather. It will burst you. And by the time you realize it, you're already on the streets at place.
So thank you, Barrister James, for telling us about. At this moment, we're going to hear the views of Dr. Olusegun Shurumbo. So you stay and then you listen to his own part of what mental health issue is all about.
Good day, and thank you for having me. Yeah, what is mental health? Mental health refers to cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. Cognitive well-being, of course, refers to how we think, behavioral, how we behave, emotional, how we feel. More robustly put, mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to contribute meaningfully to his or her own community. So generally, mental health refers to a state in which a person can function optimally and contribute meaningfully to society. Now, to the rider, what are the components of mental health? The components of mental health are those three things I mentioned earlier. The cognitive aspect of it, how we behave, how we think rather, the behavioral aspects of it, how we behave, and then the emotional aspects of mental health, how we feel. These are the components of mental health. Now, what are some of the mental health issues that we have? Let me state at this point that when we talk about mental health conditions, we are not talking only about those conditions in which a person strips naked, dances on the street, is violent towards other people. This will account for just a minority of people with mental health situations. The vast majority of people with mental illnesses will not behave in the way that I have described. For example, mental health issues will include things like anxiety disorders, whether it's generalized anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, acute stress reaction, and other anxiety disorders. There are mental health conditions that are age-specific or that are common in certain age groups. For example, older people may have dementia, delirium, and things like that. How about children? Children can have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, learning disability. These are also conditions that come to the attention of mental health professionals. How about women? Women can have conditions that arise around the menstrual flow. They can also have conditions arising shortly after giving birth to a child, what we call postpartum. So you can have postpartum blues, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis. How about the sleep disorders that anybody can have? Those are also issues about disorders like bipolar disorder, depression, schizophrenia. Importantly also, substance use disorders, those who have drug use problems, and not just drug use problems, other addictions, behavioral addictions, gambling, for example, addiction to pornography, internet addiction. So a vast, a plethora of issues really would come under the heading of mental illnesses. Now, how can a person identify who a mental health professional is? Now, this might be difficult for the ordinary person on the street. However, if anybody needs help or anybody thinks that they need the help of a mental health professional, they can approach any doctor close to them or any health professional close to them who may be able to point them in the right direction where they can find a mental health professional. In schools, in organizations, people can have access to institutional counselors. In secondary schools, you have the guidance counselor. In workplaces, you have the human resources department, or in some places, you have a dedicated psychological services department. So those are people that can be approached, that can point people in the right direction. People can also approach their spiritual or religious oversights, who may know one or two people to refer them to. Some people come to the attention of mental health services through law enforcement. Either the person has gone to report someone in police station, or somebody has gone to report the person in police station, and then the police haven't listened to them. Will say, no, we think this person needs help. Some people come to the notice of mental health professionals by order of court. So there are vast array of ways through which people can come to access mental health services. But at the minimum, a person should please approach a doctor close to them. It might be in the primary healthcare setting, a private hospital setting, a general hospital setting. Wherever you find a doctor close to you, they will be able to point you in the right direction to find a mental health professional. Is mental health an illusion? I will disagree very strongly with the notion that sees mental health as an illusion. Mental health indeed is achievable, but we must acknowledge that there is a huge gap, what we call the treatment gap, or mental health treatment gap, which is the gap between those who need services and those who actually have access to services. In our environment in Nigeria, the treatment gap. So there are vast array of ways through which people can come to access mental health services, but at the minimum, a person should please approach a doctor close to them. It might be in the primary healthcare setting, a private hospital setting, a general hospital setting. Wherever you find a doctor close to you, they will be able to point you in the right direction to find a mental health professional. Is mental health an illusion? I will disagree very strongly with the notion that sees mental health as an illusion. Mental health indeed is achievable, but we must acknowledge that there is a huge gap, what we call the treatment gap or mental health treatment gap, which is the gap between those who need services and those who actually have access to services. In our environment in Nigeria, the treatment gap ranges from 50 to 75%, 85%. What that means is that the vast majority of our population who need mental health services do not have access to those services, either geographically because they are far away, or financially because they cannot afford the services, or because the services are just not available. We have very few mental health professionals available to provide services to our teeming population. Having said that, mental health indeed is achievable, and we're not just talking about people not falling ill at all. We are talking also about people having timely recognition of their illnesses, adequate evidence-based treatment for their illnesses, rehabilitation to help them go back to their previous levels of functioning. So mental health is achievable. It is certainly not an illusion. How do we create awareness in our rural areas? We know that the vast majority of our population live in the rural areas. It is our responsibility as mental health professionals, most of us who are urban dwelling, to make time and make the sacrifice of going to rural areas to do health talks, create awareness, and sometimes provide services. I'm happy to note that mental health awareness is a major component of a lot of health outreaches here, whether even by religious organizations or by professional bodies. It is beginning to get a lot more attention than we used to give it in the past. But of course, things can be far better than they have. But we keep working towards it and making sure that day by day we get better.
Welcome back. I'm sure you've learned a lot from what the doctor has said. So we're still in the studio with Barrister James, and I still have more questions on training now. Training with family parents. How should parents balance training, discipline, and then causing trauma? Because we mentioned how parents use insults to bring up children, and some children, sometimes someone has asked me the question before, rather. The person asked me, do I think my parents beat? Thank God I didn't grow up in a house where they're beating. But I asked me, what do I think about discipline, and do I feel traumatized? Traumatized how? Before I answered them, I was like, no, that when parents beat you, when we do this, and okay, you have to have a balance in training the child, because according to him, which is true, some children are traumatized and they live with it till they grow old, and like you said, they have mental issues that remain unsolved for us long as possible. How should parents balance discipline, training, and avoiding causing trauma for their children that will contribute long-term, have a long-term effect?
Okay, a couple met me sometime last year. The lady said someone referred her to me, she came, and then she said, it's her fiancé. They are going on well, everything. It was time to go and meet the guy's father. Said the guy was all of it. Immediately they stepped into the guy's compound. That she lost the guy she went into that apartment.
Wow.
And all through the period of their stay, the guy she saw was different from the guy she left Abuja with. And what happened? At the end of the day, by the time they were leaving the compound, later they got to the junction of the house. The same person she arrived there with now came back again. So she said she doesn't understand what happened. I said, I need to see the guy. There is a childhood trauma that house has inflicted on the guy, that at age 35 this guy is yet to grow out of it.
Yeah.
So by the time I interacted with the guy, this was a trauma of 5 years. This is 30 years down the line. I think it's still very fresh. In fact, that would have ended that marriage at that time. They were just coming together. So the lady was like, am I going to do this? So what I'm trying to run a therapy on the guy. So what am I saying? Bible says, let me be spiritual. The Bible says, train up a child in the way of the Lord, and when he grows, he will not depart from it. Now, the question is, most times we abuse children rather than train them. Imagine a father flogging a child with bottle.
Flogging a child with bottle?
Yes, I've experienced, I've counseled someone at the bottle. I've run a therapy on a guy, bottle. And you know, this thing, the worst part is trauma care. Trauma care is not very easy because particularly trauma that lasted for a long number of years. You see that it takes you time to run the therapy out of it, to run the therapy to get the person out of it. So parents should be careful first what they say to these children. I gave an example of a mother that told the daughter, you can't come first.
Sure.
That is not true. You're not motivating the child. Rather, you're making the child suffer from low self-esteem. The child cannot realize her dream because the voice of her mother keeps ringing in her mind every day. That is one. Then two, everything is not about it. Bible says spare the rod at choice for the child, but also know when to use the rod. Ability to know when to use and how to use. You can't leave scars all over a child's body and then she goes to school, her friends are laughing at her, makes an object of more, and you think you're disciplining her. You have ended up accusing that child, and that child will be traumatic all her life.
Okay. Alright, so drawing from everything you said now, what is the general advice to parents, to our youth? Because many are suffering a lot who are not speaking up. And our parents and our counselors, from legal practitioners like you, to our pastors, to persons that are judges that have authority over the youth. What is your advice to them?
Okay. My advice to parents, to youth, to church leaders, to psychologists, to therapists, to counselors, and then to maybe legal practitioners like me who are into trauma care and the rest. I would say, first, if someone confides in you, make sure you rent with them because that's a challenge. A number of it's predominant in the church. Our counselors have. Someone comes to share something with you and it's flying on the streets. It becomes a sermon topic. That's two. That's one. Then secondly, you don't need to be invited to attend to that person. That is one thing I do. I don't wait for once I see a symptom in someone, I try to get close so that I can profile of it. Everything is all about money. It's not about how much benefit you're getting from it. Yes, you spend money to go and study these things. Yes. But then you have to first be a human and impact your society before the financial benefit. So look out for people who are depressed, people who are having mental health issues, and attend to them. Thirdly, to the youths, that stress you're putting yourself under today will come fighting tomorrow. Learn when to rest, learn when to draw the curtain. And also, it is not everything on social media that is real. One major cause in our youth now of mental health issues is what they read on social media and what they see. There's a popular one that is in jail somewhere outside the country now. Or people were killing themselves over that guy. So, youths, be careful. Not everything you see on social media it's correct. Some of them are photoshopped. Some of them are just there to impress. It's just impression. Some people are black, are dark physically, and in social media are very fair. So, censor it. And then parents, start talking about this thing at home. Age 3 is not too early to start talking about mental health. Sensitize these children. The church should do more. Go out on sensitization. Yes, do outreaches. Tell people about mental care. And finally, to the general public, we should look out for one another. We should be our brother's keeper. That is what the Bible says, be your brother's keeper. You should be our brother's keeper. Look out for someone who is passing through something. And then help the person. You don't need the person of to open up. When you see somebody is withdrawing from you, try to find out, is all well, is it from you or is it from this person? I think on that note, I would say we should do better to look after one another's mental health. Be careful what you say to people. What you say to someone today will help make it to better.
Thank you so much, Barrister James. It's been a pleasure having you on set, and I hope you will do more to reach out to more persons also, and I really hope that many more people like you will come on. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. I'm sure we've learned a lot today. Today has been very serious because we need to deal with serious issues to have a happy life. Remember that you must guard your mental health seriously and jealously. And if you have a family member who is withdrawing or you notice certain things, speak to the person. And if it is you, speak to another person. For you to have a productive life, you must have a balanced mental health. And just as our guest has said, reach out to people. Be careful what you say. Be kind. So be kind today, be kind tomorrow, and continue being kind until you join us on our next episode. I remain your host, Apostle Have a great day. Bye.